Apple's September 2023 event. I think I saw you on CNBC chatting it up while you were in San Francisco, giving your expert commentary on
Expert
Apple.
commentary. Pat loves that. Pat loves that. I've
Hey, you've been an Apple user since it started, so
I still use Apple every
there we
once in a
go.
while when I have to, when there's nothing else available. My kids won't respond to my text if I use a Samsung.
I know it's sad.
It is
It
sad.
is. That's why I
Now,
carry two phones.
now, here's the story. This was another kind of sleepy, iterative set of announcements that came from Apple. And I think the problem is pretty much since iPhone 4, everything's been pretty iterative. Now there's some things that get people out of their chair. The last announcement, it was the Vision Pro. This is the future of XR, and that's cool. At this one, it was the idea that I could tap my fingers and answer a phone call. Now, if you look at that from a visionary standpoint, the idea that gesturing and connected and devices and wired and wearables are going to start to interact in your world, you could start to see how this in your Vision Pro start to, live in a matter of convergence, ubiquity that could be very, very exciting. From a standpoint of 1 gram lighter, from a standpoint of maybe 1 more hour of battery life, from a standpoint of a notch versus an island, I still think, we're still talking small improvements on a period over period that oftentimes don't even match to what Android is doing right now, running on the premium tier Snapdragon platform. Which one am I talking about? Well, everybody was juicing about a 5x optical zoom. Pretty sure that's about half as good as you can get on a premium Samsung device right now. But are you going to run to the store and pay $1,300 for that? Well, of course you are. So as I kind of will comment on how I finished the ARM story, if you can get people to do it, that's great. So we have this kind of conflicting existence, Pat, where as analysts, it's our job to kind of critique, criticize, advise, provide our comments. And like having technology that's half as good as the competitor should typically not rate super well, nor should it create enthusiasm and excitement. But having said that, when you're Apple, that's all you need to do. So then the real question, I'll pass this back to you, Pat, because, I don't, even the watch stuff, all that stuff pretty much bores me, but you're a watch guy, so you can maybe talk more about that. Yeah. I've got a watch too. I like mine better. But here's the real thing. Are people going to jump out of their chairs to buy? And so my take on that is Apple always has people, no matter what it puts out, that are absolutely willing to get to the front of the line to buy anything. And that, by the way, is the absolute personification of a great brand. It's not because it's the best technology, though. So that's where we're fighting our own demons when we try to talk about this stuff. I also do believe that this pricing, the increased pricing yet again, for what is very small and marginal improvements generation to generation, has to be at some point in an economy that's still on stilts. We still have super high interest rates. That means people putting on these credit cards are going to get whacked. We still have inflation through the yin yang, and people's credit and savings are depleting. So is it the moment for Apple to raise prices, and will people run to the front of the line? Here's my analysis. Yes. No matter what happens, they will go further into debt to have the newest device. Good for you, Apple.
So being old has a few benefits, not a lot, but one of them is perspective. And Apple reminds me in 2023, like IBM was in the 1990s, the early 90s, which was they didn't have the best technology. They were milking the fruits of the labor and the bets they made in the 1960s with the mainframe. And, as we saw with Toshiba, like we saw with Sony, like we saw with RCA, and I think we've seen with a lot of companies, ultimately there is an end to dominance based on lock-ins and prior innovations. And the reason, in my opinion, and by the way, Apple used to invite me to their events for 5 or 6 years. They don't anymore. I don't think they appreciated my truth bombs, which I just never got my invites back there. But I do have a sense of clarity not going to their events. I do use their products, but because it's a lock-in, my family will not respond to anything but iMessage. And Apple got a lock-in in Western Europe and North America. Outside of those regions, people use more apps like WhatsApp. In China, they use messaging apps. So that lock-in, there's two sets of lock-ins that happen. And this has been Apple's success. The first lock-in was music, right? I got to give Apple credit, when they broke apart the bundles and the CDs and went with Apple Music. That was a key driver. So people were very concerned of, hey, wait a second. If I move off Apple, how do I get, or my iPod at the time, how do I get access to my music? And at that point, it wasn't portable, right? You couldn't take that music over to Android. And then came iMessage. Apple does a lot of things right, but aside from semiconductors right now, it's really not that big of an innovator, in my opinion. They're locked in. They're working furiously to figure out that next best thing. And these small little incremental improvements, I'll be honest, I couldn't tell the difference between iPhone 14 and iPhone 15. Huge yawner to me. And even when they lean in on this 5X camera, they still fail. Like Samsung's had this 10X for years. One thing I do find very interesting in the silicon, again, I give them credit for that, is 35 TOPS of AI performance just on the NPU. That is staggering, okay? So you have to wonder, there's actually no software or services that actually take advantage of that, but I think Intel is at least setting the stage right now where they can layer in generative AI capabilities and just blow people away. So
it's the what is it, Paz? The 8K TV of phones.
Yeah,
no content for it, but they've got it.
Yeah, I mean, they came out with what they call a spatial camera, which is really just to capture content for their $3,000 developer headset, the Vision Pro. So anyways, I do think based on their lock-in of the App Store, based on their lock-in of iMessage and the legacy lock-in of music, and not taking too many risks out there, I think they're going to sell a ton. My final comment, I don't know if you've seen all the hate coming down on Apple CEO Tim Cook on the video they did about the environment. It's pretty funny. You should check it out. Here's what gets me going. I do applaud Apple in making our phones greener, but give me an effing break, okay? Make your handsets last 10 years. That is how we are going to save the environment. I do give Apple credit on how many years they extend their software, but there was a class action lawsuit where Apple actually copped to we add capabilities that slow down your phone. How environmentally conscious is that? Okay. And, if they truly cared as much as I think they're trying to pretend that they do, I think that they would have a lot more down cycling programs to send phones to emerging regions. But that's pretty weak. Samsung actually has some pretty good down cycling emerging regions types of stuff. So with that, congratulations everybody at Apple for a big announcement.